On part two of episode 79 of the iPhoneography podcast, I'll give you a quick update on the website. I have something going on YouTube that I hope will be of interest to you, and we're going to talk about our recent photos, all coming up. It's Monday, December the 12th, and this is part two of episode 79 of the iPhoneography podcast. Hello, Dave.
Hey, Greg.
This episode, or this second half of the episode, I guess you could say, is just going to be about our recent photos. But just a couple of little things to mention before we get into that. The first one is maybe like a reminder. I'm not sure if I mentioned it before or not, but the website for the podcast has been completely redesigned. Basically, I moved it away from WordPress and went with a company called Wix, where they have a free website hosting service or whatever. You can still get there by typing iPhoneography.ca in your browser. It's a secure website, but when you type in the URL, make sure you don't put the HTTPS or it won't work. I'm working on getting that sorted out. So, but just if you just type, forget the HTTP and forget the www, just put it iPhoneography.ca and hopefully it should just take you right to the website. There's a link in the show notes, of course. And I think it looks pretty cool. It looks really good on mobile, looks good on an iPad or a tablet. And of course, looks good on the web. And we are putting our recent photos in the posts for the episodes. So you can listen online. There's a podcast page. You click on podcasts at the top, and it'll take you to all the podcasts, all the episodes. So you can listen online if you're sitting at your desk, or and so while you're listening, you can go back to the original tab and look at the posts, and you can see the pictures in all their glory. And I think it's working out really well. And so. That's the one thing I wanted to mention. The other thing is a little kind of maybe a self-promotion here, but I am starting I have a YouTube channel, but I'm going to start doing macro videos where I show you how to get certain shots of certain things and talk about tips and techniques and apps and all this stuff. So I've put an introduction to the channel video out there, and it just came out today. So there'll be a link in the show notes. The channel is just Greg McMillan. That's my name. And if you look for that on YouTube, try all one word, because if you use two words, there's a lot of Greg McMillans on there for some reason. So if you just type in one word, and it'll take you there. But of course, there's a link in the show notes. And the video that came out today is just a quick little intro. It's about, I don't know, 1 minute and 40 seconds. And just to kind of show you and tell you what to expect in the new year with this channel. So it's kind of something I'm excited about doing, and I'm hoping it flies. So, all right, now we will get into our recent photos, and let me pull yours up, Dave.
Okay.
There we are. So I've got them in the order you sent them.
Okay.
And this first one is pretty psychedelic.
Okay. So now just want to make sure that we're looking at the same one here. Is this the multicolored one that look like bulbs?
No, but we can go there if you want.
Oh, no. That's why I want to make sure. Or are you talking the river?
I'm looking at the river.
The river. Okay. Just want to make sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
So this was actually done Thanksgiving morning. It was, it's kind of it's stick season, as Matt Hoffman calls it. So,
yep.
It was after all the leaves are gone. There's no color generally, and we didn't have any snow. So everything's brown. The one thing that I really thought was interesting was, and this is, where it gets hurt a little bit. I was shooting into the sun. So I was going east since it was the morning. And of course that blows out the sky a little bit, but I was able to get, now admittedly this is heavily edited in Lightroom Mobile. But getting the different the patterns of the clouds in the sky
Yeah.
and the reflection in the river itself, because it wasn't windy, so the river had I mean, it wasn't like a perfect mirror, even though near the shore it was a little more mirror like.
Hmm.
uh, you could see the reflection of the crisscross clouds in the sky in the river itself, and enough detail where you can also see the kind of brown overgrowth that was right near me.
Yeah. Yeah. It looks
Yeah.
so painterly, like with the edits
Yeah.
that you've done to this thing. It looks so painterly. Um, and it almost looks like almost well, I think it does. Looking at it in front of me, it looks like an oil painting.
Okay. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's really cool. Um,
Yeah. And the
so
weird thing is, I had other photos the same day where I was on the other side of the river, and it was like a perfect mirror, the river itself.
yeah.
It was just perfectly clear. It was maybe 20-30 minutes later. But again, the sun was behind me, not in front of me, which of course, when you shoot like literally right in, the sun in your face,
Hmm.
it kind of messes with the image.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
also why I was going with the painted look there, and a
Yeah,
little
so
distressed.
was it like filters and stuff that you put on here or
Not really filters, just a
no?
whole bunch of editing. Just to
Okay.
like using the dehaze filter and the clarity,
Yeah.
and just messing with the lights and the color and the color balance, the different colors, trying to make the blue, but not like smack in your face blue,
Yeah,
which
yeah.
you can do sometimes with filters, and
Yeah.
just trying to boost up the foreground a little bit so you can actually see the sticks itself without it being
Hmm.
silhouetted,
Yeah.
without overblowing everything and keeping the shadow in the background. So not
Hmm.
filters per se, but just a whole lot of changes and a whole lot of sliders being used.
Yeah. Well, that's cool. I mean, this is a good lesson for
Yeah.
people who kind of stumble on editing. Take those sliders and move them around and see what they
Oh
do,
yeah.
and
Hmm.
you can very easily come up with something like this. So that's pretty cool. So the next one, like you mentioned, is some bulbs.
Right. Now, this is something I mentioned in last week's podcast when you were mentioning, did I ever use the lens ball
Yes. Oh yeah,
on
yeah.
the outdoor lights?
Hmm.
And I said, sort of. So over our front door, we have one of those doors where there's like glass on top,
Okay.
clear glass. But we wanted a little privacy, so you can buy those sheets of plastic, like frosted plastic,
Oh
that are
yeah.
like cling wrap,
Yep.
that you can put over to, so let the light comes in, but if you're walking around, no one can peek in your front door and see exactly what's happening.
Yeah, yeah.
So I we have Christmas balls, stake the type they put stakes in the ground, but they look like big Christmas balls.
Oh yeah.
And this is taking a picture of those balls from the inside looking out through that frosted plastic material.
Oh, okay. Well, that's
So,
interesting.
and in so the frosted glass material almost has like an indented pattern to it.
Yeah, yeah.
So even though they look like um, bulbs there, you're just seeing
Hmm.
the outline of the shape itself.
Yeah. It's
And
very
that's how it's
textured
also getting
looking.
your multicolor. Oh yeah, and it is. It is.
So there's really
And
not
so
much done to this as far as
no,
editing goes. It's just that's how it looked.
not yeah, yeah. And
I
I
mean,
may
you
I made I increased the contrast
yeah, yeah.
to make the
But I
black
mean,
really black.
you didn't
But
you
yeah,
didn't play around with this one like you did your other one.
no,
Yeah,
no. This was pretty much as is.
that is cool. So yeah,
This was
I
just
like
something just
the I like the
yeah.
vibrance of the colors too.
Hmm. Yeah, I was literally just walking downstairs by the front door and just looked out and was like, oh, that looks interesting.
Yeah.
Again, the advantage of the iPhone versus a traditional SLR DSLR point and shoot is like, Oh,
Yeah.
phone's on me. I can
Yeah.
take a picture.
So you went into night mode on this one?
No. This
Oh,
was
really?
because the lights were light enough coming in
Mm-hmm.
that it just went to regular.
Oh, okay. Well, that's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I never would have guessed that that's how it was done. I would have thought, okay, you did some texture work and
Yep.
who knows what else.
No,
But
that's
yeah.
that's real life texture.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Yeah, that's cool. Alrighty. Now your third one is a nice one
Yeah.
of the front of your home.
Yeah. Front of the house. So this is like the Christmas lights we have on our bushes. And this was ones I'm trying to remember. This was handheld.
Okay.
And the one thing I think is kind of neat is now this is still night mode. And by the way, if you look at the front door, if you look at the half circle on
Oh
top of
yeah.
the front door,
Yep.
that's what I was shooting out of for the previous photo.
Okay.
So
Oh
the
yeah, and
cling
if you
wrap
look at
that
the
was
very
on there.
bottom, if you look at the very bottom of the screen
Mm-hmm.
on the right, you can
Yeah.
see those big light balls there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
So the one thing I liked about this was because it was a clear night, I was able to get Christmas lights and stars.
Yeah. Yeah, that's impressive.
I did a little bit of editing just to pop the stars a little bit,
Uh-huh.
but even without editing, you could see the stars. Now, admittedly, you're not seeing a lot of stars, mainly because of the amount of Christmas lights.
Yeah.
They're
Yeah.
when it's that bright, it's almost impossible to see, to get a dark sky.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, really.
But just the fact you're able to get like, I think like there's 6 or 7 stars you can see in the sky here
Hmm.
with that much brightness. That to me is pretty nice that the phone can
Yeah.
do that.
Yeah. Yeah. It and it's the sky's not overly blown out with light pollution
Mm-mm.
either. Like it looks pretty cool.
Yeah. So that's like I said, we were talking last 2 weeks ago about taking photos of Christmas lights. It depending on what the rest of the light is around, you can still get pictures of you can still have a starry sky with Christmas lights.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, for sure.
I would say this, if you go back to iPhone 11, maybe 12, you couldn't do that. I don't know if you could do it with the 12 is borderline. I
The
think 12 would be
12,
borderline, probably
yeah,
not the 11 though.
no, not the 11, not the 11, but the
No.
12 with limited capability, I would say.
Yeah.
But
But the fact
and
that,
then of course it got better with the 13 for sure.
exactly. And I'm sure
Yeah.
the 14 is even better. But the fact that you can still use not even the latest greatest, because I'm using a 13, you can use an older, it's still a year and a half old phone or
Hmm.
a little more than a year old phone and still get this, still get where it's, it has enough computational to do a really bright foreground and you can still see sky.
Yeah. Yeah, and that is a bright foreground.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, including the the living room window on top
Yeah.
where that's the tree. We have a tree up there with LED white lights, and that's just the tree light coming out.
Oh,
That isn't
really?
room light.
Oh,
So yeah,
wow.
we like you said, yeah. So it's pretty bright.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and
Well, that's
again, the
cool.
dynamic range of the iPhone's pretty amazing.
Yes, yes, it certainly is. Yeah. Hmm. That's awesome. Alrighty. So mine, I switched the order around a little bit, Dave, from what I sent them to
Okay.
you, I think.
Okay. No
So
problem.
the first one is a macro shot of a mushroom. Now, my wife was slicing up these mushrooms to cook them up or whatever,
Mm,
and uh, they were sitting on the counter. But I looked over on the freezer, and the light was coming through the window and shining down on the lid of the freezer. And I thought, ooh, I wonder what that plate full of sliced up mushrooms. Some of them, they weren't all sliced up, obviously. But I thought, I wonder what they would look like if I put that plate in that light and had that light shine across the mushrooms, and then did them in macro. So of course I grabbed my lens and away I go. And I probably shot about a dozen pictures, different ones that were cut up and all this stuff. But this one here, I just like the way the light hit that one spot that make it look really like yellowish. And so obviously I did some editing. So, I really bumped the contrast on it and the saturation and whatnot. And I mean, the whole thing looks pretty blurry, except for that one little part where it looks like there's a natural cut in it. And the edge of that natural cut in the mushroom, that's where I put the focus. So that's pretty much the only spot that's really kind of sharp. And I think it worked out pretty good. So that's a mushroom.
Yeah, I love the yellowish brown coloration in the foreground where the little darker spots are.
Yep.
And the way the light, like you said, just the way the light hits across it there. And honestly, as you get to the bottom right, where the top, the cap part.
Yep.
And you can see the fibrous. Surrounding there, the darker fibers just kind of surrounding the cap.
Yeah. And now I can't remember if this was actually a 48 megapixel image or not. I'm just looking. No, I don't think it was.
Okay. It's also making me hungry.
The funny thing is, I'm not a real big fan of mushrooms, but I can eat them in like mushroom soup or on pizza. But I couldn't just fry up a bunch of mushrooms and eat them. But yeah, that's a mushroom. And so to give you an idea of the size of that mushroom, it was probably about 1.5 inches across, side to side.
Okay.
So
wow.
I got real close to it and made it look real big. So my next one is a path in the snow. Now, as everybody knows, we had a ton of snow here, and this was when it was going away. It was going away quite quickly, actually. So this looks like there's about maybe 1 inch or so of snow on the ground when we had about 3 feet at one time. So we got real mild weather, a lot of rain and whatnot, and it just took a lot of the snow away, and it's gone now. But this was after work in the morning, and it's one of the very few times I would get a sunrise shot. I'm not an early riser, so on my days off, I generally don't get sunrise pictures, but after working a night shift and heading home, I saw the sky start to light up, and I thought, okay, I'm going to take a little detour going home, and I kind of went around this longer way and looking for a nice scene to go with the sky. And this was an old railway track where the tracks have been removed, and it's a recreational trail now, and just the way the sky was lit up, the sun was over to the right of the frame, way over to the right, almost behind me from the angle I took this at. And it was just shining across the clouds. And I just really liked the way the colors were like pastel looking and whatnot. And I mean, obviously I did some saturation and contrast bump to this, but yeah, it really looked neat. So I had to stop and capture that.
Yeah, I love the fact that the trail is clear. But it's not like it doesn't look like someone did a straight shovel.
Yeah.
It's a meandering trail.
People walking. Yeah.
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 And is that an like a road overpass in the distance?
Yes, it is. That's the highway that heads out of town, and that's the old tunnel that the train used to go through back in the day. And one of these days I'm going to get in there because there's all kinds of graffiti on the walls. And I did some back when I had my Canon DSLR. I did some steel wool stuff with some friends and come up with an absolutely stunner, I think, of the steel wool in there because it lit up the graffiti on the wall. So I want to get in there and try that again someday with the phone and try re-expose and even longer and some of those apps and see what I can come up with. But yeah, that's exactly what it is. That's the highway runs over there and heads out of town. And so my next one is actually right behind me from where I was standing, except another day after the snow had completely left. And I took this same shot when I got my 12 Pro Max. So I'm going to have to dig it out and compare them. But what I did with this one was I shot it with the rich contrast photographic style in the Apple camera and did some saturating and stuff like that. And the green in the background looks like mossy stuff. Would you believe that's like an old spring mattress?
No, I was gonna guess like a cabin or an old shed or something. Like
No, that's
where
just
the
a
green
that's just a
mattress.
mattress laying in the background.
Wow, I would have not guessed that.
There is an old abandoned farm up the hill. Beyond that, I've got pictures of that too that I'll probably put somewhere. And so I don't know how this mattress ended up down behind these trees where it is, but yeah, folks, if you're not looking at the image either in the podcast app or online, have a look and you'll see what we're talking about here. But all it is just tall grasses blowing in the wind, and there's a little cluster of trees. Not sure what kind of trees they are, but could be maples for all I know. But I don't know. Looks like there's 1, 2, 3, 4. Looks like at least 5 of them, right in a very small cluster, and just all this grass surrounding it. And again, I gotta figure out what resolution this is too. I think this was with the 3X camera, the Apple camera, so it'll just be 12 megapixel. And but yeah, I saw this scene again, and I just wanted to take a shot with the 14 Pro and see how it compared to the 12 Pro.
Yeah, that's still blowing my mind that it's a mattress.
Yeah, I know.
I really thought it was like an abandoned shed where the part that it's not green, where it's white, is like where the window would be, and the green is maybe the wall of the old shed where the wooden slats got moss growing on them, and I would not have guessed mattress.
Yep. Yeah, it's weird. It's been there for a long time to have that moss on there, that's for sure. So that's our photos of the week, I guess.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping that I this time of year, as you can see with the stick season and that going on, I hope we do get some more fresh fallen snow, not 3 feet in a weekend. I don't think we need that again, but I would sure like to get more winter photography. And because it's really nice to look at. It's really pretty, and I'm itching to get out and do some more. So, got a couple of weeks off coming up, and that's going to be hopefully the time to do it. So, anything else you want to mention, Dave, before we?
No, I think we're good, and some photos to not only think about, but techniques that we used on the photos for people to think about and try.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so the next episode is going to be kind of like a year in review. Maybe in the iPhoneography space itself, maybe we'll talk about some highlights of that, and we'll talk about we'll give you an update on how the podcast has done over the years. So we hopefully we won't bore you to tears with all that stuff, but we'll find something hopefully interesting to talk about. And
Oh yeah.
yeah. So all right. Well, where can they find you, Dave?
Sure, you can find me pretty much everywhere online as Prof Pod. On TikTok as Prof Pod PGH. I'm on Mastodon. I'm not doing much on it, but I'm there, and that's something I'm occasionally on another podcast called AwesomeCast. That's technology based, and the one suggestion the host Mike Sword gave on that is, even if you're not doing anything on a platform, if you have if you want to stick your name on it just to say, this is me, put something out there, because you never know where someone else puts it on there. Like another podcast I listened to, it's called Opening Arguments. It's a legal podcast. And there's already an opening arguments that looks official on Mastodon. They're like, this isn't us. Oh. We don't know who it is. Oh. We've tried to contact them. We don't know who it is. We've also contacted Mastodon, and we haven't gotten any results. So I know tons of people, if you have a brand, or if you have if you want to make sure that your name is there, even if you're not doing anything with it or rarely doing, get your name out there. Yeah. That way, in case, let's say, Twitter crashes, Facebook crashes. If Twitter can crash, Facebook can crash.
Oh, yeah.
Or, Google had Google Plus all lined up. They were putting money into, and then they decided, it's not worth it. And they dropped it like a hot potato.
Yeah.
Years ago. So, but you never know what the next biggest thing is going to
be. When I was able to, I bought my domain name, and I may not use it for a whole lot right now. There is a website that you can go to if you go to my domain name. But even when my grandson was born, I got his name as a gift to my son and his wife, so that if they ever decide to make a website of his life, whatever, they've got this domain name, and he's got it now. Nobody could take that.
Yeah.
So exactly, whether it's a domain name or a social media account, I generally I'm in so many places online, but that's probably because every time a new thing comes up, I try to get either my first name or my last name. And like when LinkedIn came out, I jumped on board and got McMillan as the username. And kind of thinking back now, I maybe should have got both names, but oh well, it's a shorter name. So, but yeah, if you think you want to, even if you don't do nothing, like Dave said, even if you don't want to do anything right away, nail down that account, especially if it's free, because it don't cost nothing, and you can always, maybe someday it'll take off.
Exactly.
That's good. So yeah, you can find me on Twitter and Instagram and all those places. The links are all in the show notes. Everything is at about.me/McMillan, and that's LinkedIn and all that stuff. All that stuff's on there, YouTube, everything. And all right, well, we will see you all in the next one then.
Have a great one, everyone.